and my manager was supplying me with the drugs. He knew all my plugs, so if I couldn't perform because I was withdrawing back then, because yes, I used to be a drug addict.
Now, Lil Xan, as you could hear, clearly has something on his mind. You heard what Lil Xan said though. My manager was supplying me with drugs. That's something he came out and said the other day. That's been making headlines. I wanted to talk about it and give you my take on it, so yeah. Let's talk about it. Now, goddamn, Lil Xan the man. Lil Xan. It's been a little while since I've spoken about Lil Xan. The last time I talked about him, I made a video reminiscent about those comments he made about Tupac, which had a severe impact on the decline of his career. Before that, we also had a conversation about his fall off. You might remember that video. I dropped it back in 2020. Not a lot of people talk about Lil Xan these days though. He was one of those rappers who had a little moment and then kind of just disappeared with time. With that being said, let's talk about what Lil Xan said the other day. Now, the other day, Lil Xan posted a video on his Instagram where he was talking about a couple things. Lil Xan posted this video on IG where he was essentially putting his ex-manager, who goes by the name of Stat Quo, on blast. Lil Xan made some very, very bold claims, alleging that his ex-manager played a part in his addiction, so much to the point where he was supplying him with the drugs that he was taking.
And I just wanted to bring up a topic. Do you guys remember the whole Lil Peep, the story where his management was giving him drugs and you know, and it just wasn't helping out and all that? Well, that happened to me on tour, and my manager's name, well, I don't even like to call him my manager anymore, Stat Quo. Remember that name, Stat Quo, because when I was on tour through 2018 to 2000, whatever, the world tours with Nicki and Juice and all that. I was a drug addict back then, right? And my manager was supplying me with the drugs. He knew all my plugs, so if I couldn't perform because I was withdrawing back then, because yes, I used to be a drug addict. You know, he would make calls, send $5,000 out here, $5,000 out here, just to ship the drugs to wherever we're at in the world.
So Lil Xan was pretty much saying this person, his ex-manager, played a pivotal part in my addiction. He was the one who was supplying me with the drugs that I was taking. Lil Xan then continued by saying this:
I almost died on tour multiple times from him supplying me drugs anytime I needed it, because I couldn't perform if I was withdrawing. And I've always wanted to make this case known. He is a terrible fucking human being.
He also continued by saying a couple more things, one of them being, this is why I haven't dropped another album. So according to Lil Xan, his addiction played a part in his fall off, which that's not surprising. We're going to talk about that later. And on top of that, he touched on labels milking artists who are dead by saying things like a dead artist is easier to manage because they're not here. Obviously, that was him saying, this is what could have happened to me.
You know, the industry just sucks. And that's a big reason why I haven't dropped another album, is because it put such a bad taste. After I got sober, it put such a bad taste in my mouth, like, to even want to make music, knowing how fucked the industry is. They just want to keep you alive long enough to make their fucking money. And if you die, even better for them. Because guess what? It's easier to manage a dead artist than an alive one. And that's...
He also put up this post after the video started going crazy on social media, and this is what he said: so glad I could finally bring this story to light. And am I putting 100% of the blame on him? No, I was a drug addict. How could I? Am I telling you that he was doing nothing but speeding up my drug abuse by supplying me with the very pills that could have killed me? Yes. I'm making this public because I know in my heart this happens way too often, and it's how we end up losing some of the greatest artists way too young. These people must answer for their crimes. I remember days on tour, my security would have to check on me to see if I was still breathing, but as long as I was medicated enough to get on stage and make that bag for me and the team, everything was all good. LOL. What a joke. So I think you get the gist of what Lil Xan is saying. At my most vulnerable state, when I was addicted, my ex-manager contributed to my addiction by supplying me with a bunch of drugs. There's a couple things I want to bring up here. The first thing being accountability. Is the picture Lil Xan is painting a possible scenario? Absolutely, this actually does happen in the industry. Let's just make that clear. But the music industry aside, if someone is an addict, obviously their environment plays a huge part in their addiction. Environment being who they're around. If the people they're around are enabling their addiction in any kind of way, well, then there you have it, okay? We know the outcome of that. With that being said, if you took the drugs, then you took the drugs. That's something we gotta bring up. In this Lil Xan case, I honestly didn't hear him taking too much accountability for his situation, and if you want to change something, you gotta accept your part in that bad situation. Easier said than done, like Juice said, but that's a very relevant perspective here. That aside, Lil Xan's addiction has played a part in his fall off. I think that's kind of obvious. I mean, we all saw how bad Lil Xan was looking a while back. I also think it's important to bring up the fact that if you're a young artist in the music industry like Lil Xan is, and you're susceptible to addiction, it's not gonna go too well for you. The industry is just not a productive environment for beating one's addiction, and that's due to the crazy fast lifestyle a lot of these artists are living and have access to, so it's easy to get caught up in the moment by using the drugs as a way to escape all the shit that comes with being in that kind of position. Also, let's talk about the fact that Adam22 had a little something to say about what Xan said. Apparently Adam22 knows Xan's ex-manager Stat Quo, so he wasn't happy to see that Lil Xan was playing the victim, he said. Since Adam used to be around Xan so much, from his perspective, he wasn't being supplied with the drugs by his ex-manager like Lil Xan claimed.
Alright, so we did the news earlier today and we talked about the whole Lil Xan calling out his manager Stat Quo, his ex-manager, saying that he had him hooked on drugs or wanted to keep him hooked on drugs or whatever. And, you know, I'm cool with Lil Xan, so I felt like I was trying to kind of play both sides and not go fully in, but I just noticed that Lil Xan unfollowed me and No Jumper, so I figured why hold back? Anyway, this is what I gotta say. Xan, you gotta stop playing the victim, because I was up close and personal, granted not for the whole time, but for plenty of the shit with you and Stat, and I saw nothing but him trying to push you in the right direction to make smart moves with your career. I saw him use his vast network of connects to get you collabs with artists like YG and all these people that were not going to do songs with you otherwise. And I just wholeheartedly do not believe for a second that Stat Quo wanted you fucked up on drugs at all. I know for a fact he wanted the best for your career.
So now we have a he said, she said situation going on, because Adam22 is obviously vouching for Stat Quo, and Adam was around Lil Xan a lot during the height of his blow up, so he's seen a lot of shit. His word actually means something. Regardless of that, Lil Xan, you gotta take full accountability for your situation. That's number one. You've gone to rehab, you've gotten clean. 4 months, I believe he said he's been clean, but I think putting how you contributed to your addiction at the forefront is more important than exposing the industry, so to speak. Now, if this happened the way you said it happened, then yes, people should be held accountable for their actions 1000%. Lil Xan is now threatening to pursue legal action against his ex-manager. Apparently he has a bunch of proof to back up the claims he's made, and there's that. But yeah, Lil Xan accuses his ex-manager of supplying him with drugs. Any thoughts on this? Do you think Lil Xan is telling the truth here or nah? By the way, Happy New Year to all my people. Hope 2022 is full of blessings for you. Anyway, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and let's have a discussion about this.